West Poley here with head coach of the Miami Redhawks hockey program, Anthony Noreen, as the Redhawks get set. Couple days away from the season opener at Ferris State this weekend. Home opener against Alaska Anchorage. Coming up next weekend. Coach, how are you?
Doing well. Probably about as excited as you are.
I'm very excited as well. I'm sure you can tell. But, you spent months leading up now, and this is your first time behind a Division I bench in your career, and you're the head coach now, and you're a couple days away from finally getting to that point. What sort of emotions have you felt maybe over this last week?
Yeah, I don't know if any of that's really set in yet. I think the emotions are more, how do we make sure our guys are best prepared? And I think that's your job as a leader, is the guys that you're responsible for, is you're making sure you're putting them in the best possible position to be successful. There's no guarantees, but you're making sure that everything's, all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted, and everything from our travel to the way we eat and our meals and our, the times and skates and all that stuff is in line, and you're making sure that you're checking all the boxes as far as the stuff that you feel like they need to know. And listen, at the end of the day, a game's going to come down to what it's always come down to in this game, which is what makes it great. It's going to come down to the battles. It's going to come down to the moments. It's going to come down to the players on the ice. And like I said, our job as a staff is to make sure we just put them in the best possible position. So all of the energy, all of the emotion, all of everything, waking hour has been pretty much put towards that.
Turning things back to the spring when you were first hired, you got right to work. You got a couple commitments out of the transfer portal within days of getting hired here. Just out of curiosity, you'd probably only visited campus a few times. You knew the program from an outsider perspective once. You're pointing to me. What was the early pitch? You were still going through playoffs with Tri-City as well. What was the early pitch to those portal guys to get them to say yes?
It was an interesting time for sure for me, and one of those that you feel like everything you've been through as a coach, back to my days of being a volunteer assistant at Stevens Point and wearing a ton of different hats, to years where I was coaching the World Junior A Challenge team at the same time while coaching my Tri-City team. And, you feel like all those moments kind of hopefully prepare you for what I think a lot of people would have maybe thought was chaos or whatever. It was just a lot of moving parts of, just took a new job in a new city, current team in a playoff run, transfer portal opening, just a lot of things, trying to be mindful of the current players here, having to put a staff together, and just did what I know how to do, which was use the relationships I have and get right to work. And, it was interesting. I accepted the position on a Sunday night. The transfer portal opened Monday. And, just full respect to the guys that were already here, Zach included. I didn't know at that point what we were going to do staff-wise. I didn't know if we were keeping everybody. I didn't know if we were keeping nobody. So it was kind of one of those where, hey, I better just kind of get to work on this and see who I know in the portal and who maybe I have a relationship with. And the reality of that thing was a lot of people just kind of had a head start. They knew who was going in, and I really didn't. I mean, because it wasn't even official yet. I couldn't even preemptively reach out to the people I know and say, hey, who might be going in. And, I got up right when it opened on Monday and saw a couple names I was familiar with. And, the first one was Christoph Filion, and just familiar through coaching against him and know him as a player and watched him on TV play for Quinnipiac and know his former GM and now president of hockey operations, Steve Lowe, and just some connected parties there, and called him right away and just kind of wouldn't let him off the phone. And I think within the next 36 hours, he was kind of the first guy to take the leap. And then it kind of went from there. And that's something with Philly I'll never forget. Like, he was kind of the guy that believed before, there was really anything to believe in other than just a coach selling a dream. And for me, I had been here once before, probably about 12, 13 years ago when I was coaching Youngstown. Coach Blasey was here, and I was watching a youth hockey tournament. There was a game at night. Kids were sleeping in tents out in front. You probably remember those days as a young man.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it's, but and I just remember it being a beautiful campus, an electric building. And then when I came here the week before I accepted the position, to see it again and feel like, man, has something gone wrong? Has it aged? Is the school not what it used to be? And to see, maybe even more so now that it was a reality of me coming here, that it was everything I remembered and more. I feel like that part was easy to sell. The league, the school, the arena, the locker room, all that stuff. At the end of the day, what we've really sold is the relationship, is what it's going to be like, with me and with us and our staff day to day, and how we're going to treat the guys, how we're going to support them, how we're going to have their backs. And again, I think when you commit to a program, whatever sport it's in, I think ultimately, yeah, you're committing to a university, but you're really committing to the people. that's what we tried to make it about right from the beginning. And thankfully, some people trusted and believed in us, and hopefully we can continue to build on that in the future.
You've got 2 players on this team that have won a national title already in their college careers. You had another one in Colby Ambrosio that played on a Frozen Four team last year. What kind of experience? What does that experience, I guess, do for you and the staff in trying to bring in guys that already know how to win?
Yeah, that was a huge part of it. I mean, I think it's very easy to look and say, oh, we just went out and got the best players we could out of the portal. It was not that. We were realistic about what the program is right now, and it was way more about the culture, and it was about the foundation moving forward than anything else. We could have easily got 26 new players. Just, hey, here's the best guys in the portal. Let's grab them. Let's bring them in here. That's not what we want to be about. We want to get the right people, that have the right mentality and want to come here for the right reasons. And we feel like all those guys, for different reasons, not all for the same, came here for the right reasons. But what we loved about them is not just that they're good players, but they've been and they've done where we all want to go. And they've done what we all want to do. And that's me included. That's our staff included. None of us have won a national championship or played a national championship game. And, none of the returning players outside of Sully obviously have done that. And I think it's something we all can learn from. And not just, what their play's like, but just kind of how they roll, how they go about what they do, what they learned in the previous play state. It's something we've bet those guys years about a ton is, hey, what did you like where you came from? What do you think could have been better? Why do you think you guys who were who you were? And some of it's talent, but a lot of it is just that foundation, that that culture, that day to day that they've had. And again, it's something we put at the forefront in our recruiting, and something that we're really trying to draw off of. And when you look at our recruits for the future, the guys we've committed to, you see a lot of guys with C's on their chest. You see a lot of guys from successful programs. Like that's what we want. Those are the type of guys we want to have here.
I don't know if you're a football fan, but a lot of people think about new coaching staffs coming into a place in 2024, and they think about like the Deion Sanders effect, right, where you push everybody out and you just start fresh. But you came in and kind of took a different approach. I think a lot of Red Hawk fans were very excited about this core of juniors now that Miami has, and you kept pretty much all of them here to stay as a group that had been here for the last couple of years. How important is that to have that continuity for this team too into this new staff?
Yeah, and this is, you talk Deion, like there's nothing against. I think there's certainly more than one ways in this business. There's a ton of ways to skin a cat. And I think people need to stick true to who they are. And I think there's coaches that are my way or the highway, and there's coaches that are in it with the guys, and there's coaches who are play mind games, and there's a million. And I've been around a bunch of different guys that have been all those different ways, and different guys have found ways to be successful or not. So I think you just got to kind of be true to yourself and what you believe in and what your core values are, and really what the core values of the university and the program you're taking over are. And this is a place that, yes, Miami University wants to win. We want to win at hockey, but it's not a win at all costs program. It's not a let's clear out 26 players and bring in 26 new guys. And to me, if there was a player here that wasn't here for the right reason, or they didn't believe in this place, or it was all about them, maybe it'd be different. But there was a group of guys when I came in here that wanted to be here. And they believed in this place. They believe in this program. They want to be a part of it. And we felt it was the right thing to, at the very least, give those guys an opportunity. Because I just think, and we think, I should say, as a staff, and right from David through Brad, like we think part of the coolest part about this is going to be some of the guys that have been through the bad, seeing the other side of it. And like how special that would be. I don't know if 26, 27, whatever new players coming in could truly appreciate what this is about without having been where this program was before. And that's not to say that happens overnight or this year or next year, but we just feel that the guys that come here and they truly buy into what, and they walk the walk of what they say they want this place to be and how they say they want to perform and act and sacrifice as teammates. If they're going to do that, they're going to get the opportunity. And to me, that stuff's going to clarify itself within the week, within the month, within a year. But we felt it was the right thing to do for those guys to give them an opportunity.
I think a lot of Red Hawk fans are going to see what you did with building this staff and think back to when Rico Blasi came here in the late 90s and put together this group of really young, excited coaches to get together and try to get this program into a better spot. What were your priorities when you were going to look for assistants to come in?
Yeah, and I know I've mentioned this before, but Rico is someone who, listen, I come from his coaching tree. So one of his first assistants here was Will Nickel. the first ever coaching job I had was an assistant on Will Nichols' staff. And I think a lot of what Will taught me, and I've continued to use throughout my career, is a lot of what Will took from Rico in those early days. And I think I learned it firsthand when I was a young coach. I got my first head coaching job at 27, I believe. And there was a lot of outside voices and people that said, you need someone with experience and someone who's been through it and someone who's done that and can help you. And I just remember what Will told me when he hired me, which is very similar to what Rico did. And it was just get guys that are like-minded, that want to work, that are in it for the right reasons, that you could trust and are going to do every single thing possible to help the guys have success. And that's what I tried to do. I tried to find a group of guys that these guys are going to learn a ton from, that if I'm a parent and I'm sitting here and you're being recruited, you could say, yep, those are guys I want my son to be around. Those are guys I want my son to emulate, just not just the way they coach, but just how they are as men and the way they live their lives. And, they're young, they're hungry. There's hey, I need to go on the road here. I'm going to go here. Yeah, we got practice. Then I'm going to get in a flight here. I'm going to drive here the next day and I'm flying back. And then we've got practice the next day. That's what we're going to have to do if we want to get this thing turned back around. There can't be any time limitations. There can't be any outside obligations. This has got to be 24/7, 365, full go. And I think, from what we've done recruiting-wise in a short time, I hope it can be seen that we've tried to shake every bush and we've been out and we've been present and we've used every resource we possibly have to try and get the right players here from the future, but also to spend time with these guys that are here to make sure that they're getting every bit of knowledge and support and detail that we can put into them. And, again, it's one thing for a coach, it's another thing for one assistant, but when you have a whole staff that's like that, I think a team feeds off that. I think a team sees that. I think they see the camaraderie in the staff. I think they see the work ethic, the dedication, things like that. And, when it comes to the guys we have sitting here that are sitting in that coach's room beside me, I don't have any doubt that any guy's going to look at those guys and think, man, those guys empty the tank. They do whatever it takes. And I think that stuff is contagious.
Based off what I could gather, at least since the players have been here and been practicing, the attention to detail on the ice, off the ice, lifestyle, weight room, whatever it may be, has been really focused and really intense. And that's seemed like it's been sort of a trademark of what you've wanted to do here to start. What are some of those details that you really try to drive home to these guys day to day that really emphasize winning?
Well, first off, we are huge believers throughout our staff that how you do anything is how you do everything. And I think there have probably been some times, specifically early on, where maybe the guys were even are these guys serious? Is this real? Of some of the smallest little details. And, and I think it's easy to come in and do that once, but when it's day after week, and now we're in 2 months and it's still, that stuff still matters just as much. Then I think it just kind of becomes who you are. And that's the way we want our guys to live. I use the word in my, opening press conference. The biggest thing for me is just discipline. I think anybody could come and run through the doors on day one of camp or the first game of the season. It's the guys who show up and do it right at the right time, when they're supposed to the level they're supposed to, with enthusiasm every single day. And every time they get a chance to do a drill or a rep or, a workout or something in the community, whatever it is, doesn't matter how they feel, doesn't matter what's going on in their personal life, doesn't matter what the result was the last time they were on the ice, win, lose, winning streak, losing streak. To me, that's called being a pro. A true pro in whatever you do are the people that do it right no matter the circumstances, and they react the right way no matter the circumstances. And I think that's when we're obviously trying to build a program and we're trying to recruit and we're trying to sell young men and families on coming here, that's a huge part of what we want to sell, is regardless of what your son's hockey career turns into. We hope that we can maximize whatever their potential is, and I hope that potential is the NHL, is that the type of person they're going to become. And that they're going to have success in whatever they do, as a family member, as a business employee, as a business leader, as a player, because of just how they do what they do every single day, no matter what's going on around them. I just believe the world needs a whole lot more of that. And that's something that I think our guys are starting to get. Wasn't just a flash out of the gates, but this is an everyday thing, and that stuff matters. And obviously that starts with us and how we roll and how we show up and how we act every day and, our preparation and our detail. And when it becomes really cool and really special is when it comes from the guys. And when we just gonna come in and we give them, hey, here's the lineup, here's some X's and O's, but the rest of that stuff is just who we are. That's our culture. That's our identity. And to me, there's no magic wand you can wave to make that happen. But that's an ever evolving thing, and it's part of the cool thing of team sports because there's going to be setbacks and things are going to come up, and a guy's going to get scratched or it might not go well, or you're going to have a winning streak and maybe you get too high, and like that. Those are all the moving parts of like that's what leadership's for. To bring guys back to our core values and what matters to us and what Miami hockey's all about. And I hope that everyone that's been around us in this short time can see that and feel that. And it's something we take a lot of pride in.
On a lighter note, now that you've spent the last few months here, do you have a favorite Oxford restaurant?
You know what? I've really just within the last couple of weeks, I've really loved Frigid Pantry.
Okay.
Like I'm a pretty healthy eater. Like
That's what I've heard,
it's awesome. It's probably the place that I've gone the most. I'm a big Cafeña guy.
Okay.
Like that's the go-to coffee shop for sure. I'm more of a local coffee shop. Nothing against Starbucks, but I'm more of a local coffee shop guy. And then I'm trying to think what else. What's the forgive me the Italian? Paisano's is great as well. I haven't been there as much as I'd like, but it's great as well.
Across the street.
Yep.
Is there an NCHC city that you haven't been to that you're most excited to go to?
That I haven't been. I don't know if there's one that I haven't been to.
Maybe just that you're most excited to visit again then.
I think, listen, there's something to be said for going and playing at the Ralph in North Dakota. Obviously, that won't happen. I hope it happens at some point this year, but as a regular season game, not until next year. But man, there's some classic buildings. Like just sitting there in the meetings, and even yesterday we have a Zoom with all the head coaches, and just the amount of respect that I know our staff has just looking around at some of those guys and what they've been able to do and what they've been able to build and the cities and the buildings and the programs they have. I mean, it's you have respect for it, but it also makes you like want to be in that mix and want to be part of that conversation as a program. And I don't know if there's an easy night or a light night or a rink you're going to. Oh, this is isn't that cool? Like it's special. It's one of the coolest parts about not just college hockey but college sports in general is some of the histories. I mean, even going to play Ferris State this weekend, like it wasn't very long ago that Ferris State was in the CCHA. It wasn't very long ago Ferris State was playing in a national championship game, and like I think it's it's another classic building with Bob Daniels, who's got to be one of, if not the longest tenured coaches in college hockey, and for us to be in those situations and to get those opportunities is pretty special.
Tommy Hill, former Red Hawk assistant, was the captain of that Ferris State National Finals team. He spent a lot of time in Oxford. He was great as well. Talking about the NCHC a little bit, I mean, there is not a light day like you put it. I mean, that might be a way to put it mildly. It seems like you're playing a top 10 power play, top 10 penalty kill, top 10 ranked team every single weekend. What sort of challenges does that pose? You talk about discipline and day in, day out. Not to have a weekend that you circle on your calendar, you're almost circling all of them in the conference because of how good it is.
I think it's great. I mean, to be honest, it's a huge part of what attracted me to this. And I think it's a huge part of what's allowed us to attract some of the players through the portal and for the future. And even some of the guys that are here, like if you have a ton of pride in what you do and you put a ton into something, it's no different than like every player wants to play in the NHL. Every coach wants to coach in the NHL. Like you want to go against the best. You want to see what you're really made of. And I think that's the coolest part about this conference is there's not an easy night. There's not an easy building. There's not an easy coaching staff. There's not an easy player. Like it is the best of the best at the purest form of hockey, which is college hockey. And I think it's awesome. It's great. It's challenging. I think it'll certainly be humbling at times. But you know that if you're not at your absolute best every night, you don't have a chance. I think that's great. I think it's quite the challenge.
Shifting our focus now to this weekend, couple days out from Ferris State. That weekend got moved up a day, Friday, Saturday series to start the year. It was great, right? You get to start a day early. You mentioned Coach Daniels and a very long-tenured staff. This is a team in Miami that's gotten very familiar with playing Ferris State to open the season over the last couple of years. What sort of challenges do they pose to your group?
Yeah, they're a big team. They're a heavy team. I think they play really well in their arena. They've been good on special teams. I think they do a really good job of getting pucks and bodies to the net and using that size and strength that they have. And I think they take advantage of the dimensions of that rink. It's a small rink. I think they do a good job of playing at pace and in making it contentious all over the rink. And again, it's a team that's had a lot of success historically, especially in that arena. I think for us coming out of the gates, and these guys, a lot of them are too young to remember the old Miami Ferris State rivalry from the CCHA days. But I would like to think that by the time the puck drops and we get through a couple shifts, everybody's going to feel what it's about. After a few shifts in that building, and I think that's great.
This team, you brought in, a decently sizable freshman class. Your average age is still over 22. You're a pretty old group. Even the guys that you brought in as freshmen are pretty well-seasoned junior players. How much does that help to have guys who just played a lot of games at a high level, whether that's junior or college?
Yeah, you hope so. And I've always said, even previously working in the USHL, it's a league that spans from 16 to 20. I've always said, that veteran, people always say, well, veteran teams win. Old teams win. And I would say the right veterans in the right old wins. So it's great, just having seniors or just having fifth-year guys or just having a 23-year-old on your roster, that's not what wins. What has won in my, not just opinion, my view and what I've seen is groups that have had, you look at the Quinnipiac team a couple years ago. Yep, they were an older team. They had a lot of fifth-year guys and a lot of seniors, but they had the right guys. And they had guys that were selfless, guys that were character guys, that were leaders, that played the right way. And it's very easy for the rest of the guys to fall in line and do what those guys do if your older guys do it right. And we tried to make that extremely evident and apparent and empower those guys. Some of these guys are coming back that had been in leadership roles last year. Some of them, whether it's the transfers or returning guys, have been, maybe part of, but not really. And what we want is a team full of leaders, a team full of guys who do it right. Where for our younger guys, some will have played 2-3 years of junior hockey, coming in to be like, yep, that's what it's like. That's that's the way it's done in this league. That's the way it's done at this university. That's a guy I could follow and just kind of, hey, the way he warms up, the way he stretches, the way he's in the weight room, his detail in practice. So we've put a lot of onus in we've empowered those upperclassmen a lot. It's on them to live that. And I think if you look around that room, there's a lot of guys who, as we talked about earlier, very easily could have jumped in the portal and went somewhere else. And some guys who were in the portal when our staff took over, and they, were getting recruited by other places, and they chose to stay here. They chose to be part of Miami hockey, whether it was for the last year, maybe 2 years, whatever it was, because they believe in this place. They love this place. They want to see this place have success, and they know and they believe that they can be a part of that. And again, I think that's been one of the most fun parts and humbling parts of this venture is to see that and to feel that from those guys. Now, does that guarantee you a win or a goal or a save or anything? No, it guarantees you nothing. But what it does is when you strap it on and you take the bench and you're standing behind those guys, I can look up and down, and I know we all could look up and down and be like, man, there's some guys here that you feel like they've done what they should in order to have some success. They should be fully confident. It's going to fall where it may, but there should be some confidence amongst the group. There should be a high level of belief amongst the group. More than anything, there should be a high level of hunger and a chip on the shoulder amongst this group because of what they've been through.
Looking at some of the position groups, I guess starting with goaltending, Bruno Rivera is a guy who had a little bit of a bumpy freshman season for a lot of reasons. He had eligibility, then he got thrust into the starting role due to Logan Neaton's injury, and right as he seemed like he was starting to turn a corner, he went back to splitting time again. Now that he's had a full off-season with a year of college under his belt, what have you seen from him in camp?
He's a worker, and your best players got to be your hardest workers, especially when you're building a culture and building a foundation. And there's no more important position in hockey than goaltender. And what I've seen from Bruno is, here last night, it's, 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, and he's in there juggling, and he's in the steam room, and he's stretching, and that wasn't just a one-night thing. He's been doing that every single day since he's been here. I think he's been highly competitive in practice. Having said that, I think he's also been really supportive of Dawes and Millsy. And I think all three of those guys, I was saying it earlier in the press conference, those three guys all want to be the guy. They all want to be the guy. Having said that, like, you want to be competitive, but you also got to support the other guys in the goalie room. And I think they've done a good job doing that. And I hope they make the decisions extremely hard on us for who we start on a Friday night and Saturday night. I think competition breeds success, and it's the most important position, like I said. But I think Bruno's done a really good job thus far of that effort, that second effort, and just being prepared and being a professional and taking care of his body.
Scoring has been an issue the last couple of years for this team. There were some guys that seemed like they were starting to develop that a little bit. You brought in Colby Ambrosio, who was extremely dynamic coming in as an offensive guy. Where do you see that scoring coming from this team?
I think that we're going to be a team that's going to have to score by committee. I think you look at a guy like Johnny Waldron, what he was able to do last year. You bring in, someone like Colby, you bring in Chupani, you bring in Filion, like some guys who have proven they could score at this level. And we're going to need those guys to do that. Like, there's no doubt. We're going to need Hutchstad offense from the blue line. That's the reason he was brought in. Having said all that, you can't just be a one power play or a one line or a one D pair team specifically in this league if you want to win. So we're going to need other guys to step up. We're going to need guys to add on the numbers that they had last year. We're going to need freshmen to contribute. Like, it's going to need to come up and down our lineup. And I think, we were talking about this as NCHC Media Day a few weeks ago, just the goaltending in our conference and how good it is. Like, it's NHL style goaltending. So it can't just be, I'm a guy that scores. Like, we're going to have to get some ugly goals. We're going to have to get bodies and traffic to the net. We're going to have to, probably get punched in the mouth, and we're going to have to get dragged down, and we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 whacks before it goes in. And that's something we've tried to simulate during practice. But once it gets live, we're going to have to continue to do that. And again, we hope that there's depth in our scoring, and it's guys up and down the lineup. But obviously, those guys that were brought in out of the portal, some of the older guys that have done it before, we're going to need them to be impactful as well.
You mentioned getting out of the gate hard and how it's not necessarily the most difficult thing to do to motivate your team to do that, but almost on the other side of that, you feel like you have to kind of pull your team back a little bit and curb their excitement for opening weekend so they don't play outside themselves?
I think we've tried to, and I think for the most part the guys have done a really good job of just kind of being focused on what's right in front of them, because we've gone through some ups and downs even during training camp where maybe it's a practice or a drill or a scrimmage that hasn't been up to par or that has been really good, and then it's okay, how have we reacted from it? Hey, this happened, we weren't great in this area, what did we learn from it? What did we like? What didn't we like? Here's the video, how can we be better? Go out and address it. Look, we've been through a lot of that, but again, to me, it's what's the reaction going to be? Like, when we go through something tough, when we give up a goal or take a penalty or whatever it might be, when we score a goal, when we get a lead, how are we going to react? What is the next play going to be? What's it going to look like? What's the intensity level? And ultimately, what we'd like to get to is to be a team where it doesn't matter what the score is, who we're playing, what the situation is, that we just look the same way every single day. And again, that's easy to say, hard to do, but it's something that we want to continually, day in and day out, build towards and work towards. I'm just excited to see guys and see how they react and see what it feels like and what it looks like and how they pick each other up and, see a lot of the things that what we've talked a lot about is what do we celebrate here? What is cool to us? What are the things that matter that are, most of them are things that are just a choice. It's not he makes a really skilled play or he's just faster than that guy or shoots it harder, but like things that are a choice. You're staring a puck down and you're going to have to get down and block a 95-mile-an-hour slap shot and it might not feel the best. Are you going to make that choice? You're in the offensive zone, you worked really hard to get there, and now maybe you're not 100%, but if you get off, you have no chance to score, and you can let someone get out, and he's got more energy than you do. It's hard to do, but that's a choice that is contagious amongst winning teams. That doesn't necessarily mean that you win, but you have winning habits that winning teams have, and that's really what we want to see us take strides for and build towards and work towards, and that's not going to stop no matter what our result is.
Certainly. Well, Coach, appreciate the time. Miami hockey gets going this weekend, Friday-Saturday series against Ferris State. Next following weekend, over fall break, Miami and Alaska Anchorage home opener in a Friday-Saturday series as well. Good luck this weekend. We'll be rooting for you all year long. We'll have coverage on Red Hawk Radio all season as well. Thanks so much for the time.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.